So in this video, you're going to see how to take your contour line drawings and turn them into these beautiful watercolors that kind of pop out of the border. Here's where you get to play with pattern making and watercolor, and you don't have to be super realistic. It's really just more to add a little bit of personality and kind of have fun and explore the medium. So the papers that I drew my contour line drawings on were 8.5 by 11. So we're taking a piece of 12 by 15 watercolor paper and we're measuring in 3 inches from each side. So you're taking your ruler, you're measuring in 3 inches and then just drawing a straight line with your pencil all the way around so you have a little border. Once your border is complete, you're going to take a look at your contour line drawings and decide which one you like and you want to include in your frame. You're going to turn it over and you should be able to see the marker through the paper. If not, it doesn't really matter. You're just going to scribble kind of all over with your pencil, nice and dark, wherever your drawing is. So if you can't see it very well through your paper, you can kind of scribble everywhere, or you can flip it over and kind of keep looking. But the idea is you want to just make sure that you're getting the lead all over wherever your marker lines are on the other side. Once you're confident that you have the graphite or lead all over the back of your drawing, you're going to place your drawing over that box that you just drew on your watercolor paper and begin tracing your design in the spot where you want it. You're just going to go over all your contour lines. You want to include those areas where you kind of backtracked. The idea is you want this contour line drawing to look very free and organic and free form and free flowing. You don't want it too tight. So trace over all your lines. If you want to omit one or two, if it's a part of the drawing that bothers you, you can kind of omit little bits and pieces, but just try to keep it nice and even, and you're going over, and you want your plant to come outside of the border. So you're making sure that where you placed it, your image is coming outside of that box that you originally drew. When you lift your paper, you're going to have a very faint outline, and it's going to kind of come outside of the border here. So you're going to just take your eraser and erase inside your leaves wherever that line of the border is. So you want your leaves to be overlapping the border. So you're erasing the line of the border inside the leaves. Next, you're going to go over your lines with a felt tip pen. Any type of fine point marker will do, Sharpie or Micron or really anything you have. And you just kind of follow the faint outline of your pencil with the marker. Now we're going to add the watercolor, and the secret to the watercolor is really adding a lot of water and keeping your colors very light and mixing your color. You're going to work in layers, so your first layer is going to be super faint. So here I'm mixing a bunch of cool colors together. I'm mixing some blues, some greens, some violets, and I'm with lots of water, adding a little bit of very watered down color to my paper here. So once the paper has dried, you want to wait for that background to dry. You're going to mix up some warm colors. So we're using a little bit of reds, a little bit of orange, some yellow. If you want to tone down your warm colors, you can add a tiny bit of the color's complement to make it a little bit more earthy. So if you mix a tiny bit of, say, green with your red, it'll give you a little bit of a more earthy feel if you don't want it quite so bright. But you mix up your color really good in the pan on your watercolor set, and make sure it's a mixed color. You never want to use your colors directly out of the paint tin. You want to always mix. I usually say at least 3 or 4 colors before putting it on your paper. And if when you get it on your paper it's a little bit too dark, just add some water and blend it with the water. And don't be super tight here. Let it kind of flow. Painting over my lines, I'm not trying to paint inside each shape. And make sure you keep it very transparent and lighter than you think you should, because you can always go back over it darker with another layer, but it's so hard to get lighter once you've overdone it. So it's better to err on the side of caution and keep it super light. And you want to move pretty quickly too. You don't want it to dry in between and have your brush strokes shown. So there, I got a little dark, so I'm just adding a little bit of water and kind of letting it blend. Don't try to overbrush. It's supposed to be free form and designy and organic and not perfect. You're not really showing all the shadows. You're really experimenting and having fun with the watercolor and letting it bleed and get all those beautiful transparencies. And it's also important to remember you want to let it dry in between, so don't overwork it at this stage. Once you're relatively happy, you kind of just stop and let it dry, and then you can go back to it. So once your watercolor has dried, then you can kind of go back and add a little bit of personality to your work. Here I'm adding a kind of Zentangly patterned border around that outline that I created. You can use any kinds of patterns that are interesting to you. You can add pattern over that blue background if you would like. You can add text as texture, maybe add your favorite quote going around the outside. Just kind of play and experiment and have fun. So here are some finished examples. You can see we went back into that blue background and added some more layers of watercolor so you could see the transparencies there and the detail. And just kind of had a little bit of fun. In this one we added a little checkerboard pattern with some text as texture. We used warm colors in the background and cool colors in the foreground. Really, you get to experiment and be creative here and just kind of play with the watercolors, keep them light, and have fun with the pattern. And that's it. Enjoy the process.